Our Gulf Coast MakerCon 2015 coverage is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Go ahead and imagine presenting the thinnest and lightest Surface ever, the Surface 3. The perfect balance of performance and value for students, families, and more. Pre-order yours today or check out all the other latest gadgets at f5live.tv/Microsoft.
And I'm also glad that 3D printers as a whole are becoming more available and more usable to the general population, in part because of groups like our next interview. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Joel. I'm with FreeFab 3D. We're a 3D printer manufacturer and seller in downtown St. Petersburg.
Excellent. And you guys were on the show last year. We got to see the machine in action, which was really cool. I see you've brought a 3D printed thing.
It's a planetary gear set. And if you look at how this is constructed inside, its helical gears, you take a look at that, you could not assemble that part.
Right.
Like if you cut those gears and tried to shove it together, not happening.
Yeah.
But we can 3D print that. And if you'll hold the center, it actually works.
It does absolutely spin, which we'll get a better shot of later. But yeah, that's awesome.
Right, and that's why I brought this particular piece, because it showcases what 3D printing can do.
Absolutely.
It's not just we print a bunch of trinkets and like cool shiny stuff.
Sure.
Think about this. I mean, I'm a pragmatist. I'm a very practical guy. I don't care how cool it is. What can I do with it?
Right.
And
absolutely.
with this here, it's now okay. Typically, when we assemble things, manufacturing is all assembly. We cut, like you want a gear set, you start with a chunk of aluminum and you cut away everything that doesn't look like a gear.
Right.
And then you assemble it. And we've just taken away that limitation. Now you can build
Flip
stuff.
it the other way.
Exactly. Now
you start with nothing and build what you need.
Bingo.
Instead of starting with lots of stuff and cutting it down to what you need.
And you don't need to assemble it. You can, like if for some reason you need a sphere within a sphere, we can make that for you.
Right.
That wasn't possible. You cannot assemble that part. So that to me is what's really cool about 3D printing, is now it's just taken away that physical limitation that we've had for, since the Bronze Age. That now, holy, what could we do now?
Sure.
Now, that's cool to me.
It really is. It's the best part of the general availability of 3D printers is that things like this, they could not have been assembled, or the hands that Enabled does. What a great change in the world.
My personal favorite story about is, I don't know for any, if you're homeowners, but your dryer vent where it goes out through the exterior wall of the house, and you go, she's nodding at me like you know this. To get one that works for your particular application is how many, 5, 6, 10 trips back and forth to the hardware store? One of my business partners went out there with a ruler and a micrometer and measured it and printed his own. And 45 minutes later, screwed it to the side of the house.
Nice.
I was like, exactly. I'm going, okay, this is cool.
Problem solved.
Yeah. It lets people, individuals, solve problems.
Absolutely.
You break apart on your 5-year-old microwave. You're like, well, I just need this little clip that's part of the door latch assembly. You contact the vendor. We'll sell you the door assembly for $140. You're like, I need a clip. Now you solve your own problem.
The microwave was 85.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So, FreeFab.
Yes. 3D.
3D produces a 3D printer.
Yes.
2.
Yeah, last year, the one you saw last year was our monolith. We still produce that. It's our flagship model.
Okay.
In about 2 months now, we're going to have a new model out called the 8.3.
Okay.
Okay, well, what's different about it, other than the name? We've enclosed it now, which allows us to do cool things. Some very practical, like we can now control the environmental temperature inside the build chamber. One of the things we learned early on about 3D printing was it's very sensitive to air currents. I mean, our first model, we got it dialed in, we got it, perfect, it's printing great, and then we moved it in the lab from one table to another, and it just went, gone. We're like, what's wrong? So we spent about 3 days with levels and, leveling and calibrating the machine, and then we figured out we just put it underneath the AC vent, And that was our problem.
Oh.
Exactly. Yeah, he's facepalming. Yeah, and so now once we figured that out, we're like, oh, well, now that's part of our instructional package.
Sure.
Don't put it in front of the open window. Don't put it near the AC vent. So now we've enclosed it, and that lets us...
That's not the kind of thing that you would necessarily just, oh, well, yeah, of course. After you figure it out, you're like, well, duh, I should have thought of that. But there was no way you were going to think of that.
Right. And the other practical application to enclosing the machine is now it keeps the cat out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's moving parts, the cat, I mean, it's
The
a
cat
magnet.
would be very interested, I could tell.
Exactly. We've also added something on it with the proximity sensor, and we have automatic bed leveling. So when you move the machine, it used to be you'd have to recalibrate it, and now it does that for you. It goes
Nice.
around and finds 5 different spots on the bed. So you could actually, shove a book underneath one side and set it at like a 3-degree angle, and it will
Figure
out that I'm tilted, and in the software it will create a topographic model of the bed and it will compensate for that.
Very
Wow.
cool. So I know last year when we spoke on the product, it was very specific to education. The intent was very specific towards education. Is that still the goal, or have we expanded the market?
You don't need to be part of a school to buy our printer. We won't
Awesome.
turn you away.
Cool.
One niche market that we were not prepared for, they came to us and we're like, well, of course, plastics manufacturers.
Okay.
In that if you want to injection mold something, to tool up for that, like if you want to injection mold this, your first part is about $10,000.
Right.
Your second part is about half of a cent, as is every part after that. It's
Yep.
that initial tool up.
Yep.
And these guys were talking with their vendors, people they were prototyping for, and they would be looking at a CAD drawing on a computer screen and arguing about this thing. And is that screw hole in the right spot? Will this work? Well, now they can print it out and hand it to them and go, is this right? And the guy, the vendor, the customer can say, can you move the screw hole about 2 millimeters that way? Yeah. Have you got an hour? Here, will this work? And they can take it home with them, try it out in their
whatever it
exactly.
is they're doing.
Right, and then come back and say, yes, print me this. I want my 10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That.
Again, one of those
Again,
things.
of course.
Exactly.
But nobody would have come up with it.
And the
it's not where you
usefulness.
thought.
Yeah.
The usefulness of just like having a 3D printer and like being able to like make anything that you would normally like have to like go out and buy or find or whatever.
Or stuff you couldn't make before.
Or, yeah, does not exist, could not exist.
Yes.
Yeah, really cool. So if somebody were interested in getting a hold of one of these 3D printers, how would they do that?
They would go to FreeFab, FREEFAB 3D.com.
Excellent. And what kind of prices are we talking?
$1,700 for the monolith. We do give a discount to nonprofits and education. And right now on the 8.3, we're looking at about $2,200 when we go into production.
Cool.
So still under the radar, under the price point for most of the printers you buy out there.
Absolutely.
Ours also, I mean, you get to meet us in person. You don't just open a box and go, well, now what do I do with it? And you come into our lab, pick it up, bring your laptop. We'll load all the software on it for you.
Cool.
That's all free, so it's not like, your cell phone. Buy the school phone and our service package. The software's all free, and we'll give you 2 hours of training. So we'll teach you, not only what to do, but what not to do.
That's really
like,
cool.
This is how you break a 3D printer.
Yeah. Don't put it by the open window.
Exactly.
Things like that. Got it. Makes sense. Well, I appreciate you coming by and talking to us.
Certainly.
Have a good rest of the show.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
The more companies that get involved in producing 3D printers, the less expensive they will become, and the more generally available. The more generally available, the more things like enabled get to happen.